Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Atlanta Motor Speedway for tonight's broadcast here on 3YTV of the SimPossible Racing League V-Kart Series, Round 2, here at the slickest 1.5 mile circuit in all of iRacing. It is hot, and one really fast track, but this is one very, very difficult track to master. I'm Peter Short, and joining me here tonight is Cameron Rich, and as always, Carlos Acosta, manning these cameras around this 1.5 mile circuit. You see the air temperature of 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but more importantly, a track temperature of 108 degrees. Cameron, and you and I know a high track temperature here at Atlanta makes for a very slick racetrack.
You're very right about that, Peter. And one of the biggest misconceptions in all of racing is that this track is similar to the other similarly shaped tracks of Charlotte Motor Speedway and Texas Motor Speedway, but that could not be further from the truth. For one, this is the oldest pavement of the three, making this track, like you said, very slick, and with that high track temperature, it's going to be a handful for these drivers tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you see on the top of the screen, you got the ticker. You got Dave Wilson currently on top of the charts with a 30.201 second lap time. He did run that lap time in a little bit of cloud cover, so cloud cover definitely does appear to be important to the lap time. Second place currently is Tanner Sharp with a 30.345. Third place, Tim Masters. Fourth place, Kyle Zimmer. And fifth place on the charts is Brian Lowe. But Cameron, one thing we have to talk about is points. If you missed last week's race at Daytona International Speedway, it was won by Chris Roberge. Roberge getting his first win here in the SimPossible Racing League. And he is currently top of the board in points. And he's closely followed by Dave Wilson, Tanner Sharp, Brian Lowhead, and Kyle Zimmer, your top 5 in points. But all these drivers, they'll be looking forward to the chase, which will happen later on in the season. And you know, Atlanta is really the first track, Cameron, that driver skill starts to come into play. It is important to have some skill at Daytona, but Daytona is a little bit of a roll of the dice. But here at Atlanta, driver skill is paramount with how slick the track is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't say that Daytona is not a track where skill is not required. Of course, we all know that winning those races requires you to have a lot of skill and maybe a different skill set. But here, it's all about throttle control. We're like a dirt track in the 1.5 mile speedway configuration that it is. So, Peter, I know you're very good at this track because you're good everywhere, but you're particularly good with throttle control. What is the key for these viewers watching tonight being fast at this track?
Well, I mean, definitely in Atlanta, one thing that has to be in your mind from lapping is managing your rear tires. And these drivers, they'll go out there for their first 3 or 4 laps. These race cars will stick right to the ground with a lot of grip on all 4 tires. But after a couple laps, usually about 5 here at Atlanta, you start to lose those rear tires just a little bit. And so just limiting your throttle control is something that will help you longer in the run. Because once you start to get a little bit of tire wear on your rear tires, it makes you loose. And once you're loose, it's very easy to continue to make the loose effect worse by just hitting the throttle a little bit too hard too soon. So these drivers on a little bit older tires gotta watch out for that tonight, because it's kind of a snowballing effect. Once you get loose at Atlanta, you don't ever tighten up. You just continue to get looser and looser. So being able to manage your throttle control and being able to manage how much you slide coming out of the corner with how much throttle input you have definitely will help that tire wear and help you on the longer run.
And one of the things that we will see more skilled drivers do, or in any series, is right at the green flag after to begin a run or so, you'll see them kind of fall back or really not go anywhere. You'll think, what's wrong? They're not doing anything. But as the run goes on, you'll see them climb up through the field because they save those tires. And of course, those tires are going to be paramount tonight. And also, you see on the screen right now, you see some of the cars running higher on the track, particularly in 1 and 2. You'll see cars move up to the middle and high side as the run goes on. And that's just to keep the momentum up in the car, and it really keeps those tires under the car a little bit. It just keeps them from getting that loose feeling that you were talking about on exit if you run the bottom.
Yeah, and because we do have time transition here activated, you'll see in turns number 1 and 2 a little bit of shade right up there near the wall, but it's currently about 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Atlanta in the game. So as the sun continues to set, you'll probably get to see a little bit more shadows over the track, and that might just help that high line just a little bit more to see if there's any grip up there for these drivers to use, because track temperature so important at a track like Atlanta. But do want to mention we got about 2.5 minutes left in practice, and I just looked down the charts, and we do have some interesting results throughout the field. Got to keep in mind. Ooh, look at that! That's, I think, Thomas Weis there getting loose out of turn number 4. But Dave Wilson on top, Tanner Sharp, Tim Masters, Kyle Zimmer, and Brian Lowhead. Nothing really happening up at the top. And then we have some really close lap times in the midfield. Kyle Zimmer, 30.522. Brian Lowhead of 30.53. Nate Catilla, another 15 thousandths of a second off him. Billy Weis is about at 12 one-thousandths of a second off Nate. Dominic Lee is about 21 thousandths of a second off Billy Weis. Chris Roberge, 22 thousandths of a second behind him. And Tom Johnson, 4 thousandths of a second behind him. So that midfield, Cameron, I was just saying thousands because they are all so close. Kyle Zimmer to AJ Digby, about a tenth and a half on the lap times there. So definitely that midfield could be a very exciting place to watch in this race because, like you said, at Atlanta you do get to run some different lines to help save tire, but also just because different lines come in at different times of this race typically, so definitely got to keep an eye out for that tonight.
And like you said, that midfield's so close, and what we're probably going to be seeing in the race is just those that whole pack of cars, from 3rd, 4th, 5th on back. They're probably going to be all over the track, really like 3 wide for throughout most of the run, and it's going to be pretty cool to watch, so I'm excited to see what these guys do.
2 drivers who have entered the session but have not been able to take time yet are Kevin Cochran in the number 80 and Doug Mccollum in the number 33. Both of those drivers kind of not able to take time yet, but hopefully they'll be able to put a qualifying lap in and start this event before we go green flag here in about 10 minutes because we have a qualifying session here coming up. You're looking at last week's winner, Chris Roberge, and there is the 17 of Fernando Matos. Cannot miss that car. And Cameron Fernando seemed like he was involved in just about every incident at Daytona. Not really anything of his own doing, just wrong place, wrong time. But Fernando Matos definitely showed some speed last week, and definitely hoping to get a good finish with that 17 ride this week.
Yeah, I don't think that we can miss it on the broadcast, and I don't think anyone else can miss it either because he seemed to be involved in everything. Tough break, but really stuck it out till the very end. Did a very good job in his first race, and going to be interesting to see what he can do this week. But we are qualifying here as AJ Digby pulling down pit road. I do believe we should have open qualifying at this track, and we do. So, going to be, actually, Peter, one thing I didn't even think about, open qualifying at this track, the draft is pretty important. Are you going to want to get a draft lap here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it seems like these iRacing cars are now so aero dependent that I would really want that much aero wash on my car. I'd probably be happier personally being out front like AJ Digby is. He's running up right close to the wall to try and get as much momentum coming to the stripe this time. And look, a little bit of cloud cover has descended over the track. That will help with some of these lap times. Some of these drivers that can make maximum benefit off some cloud will probably end up pretty close to the pole. It definitely helps with a lot of grip. We saw that in practice as AJ Digby, he rockets down the back stretch. Really good turns number 1 and 2, nice and smooth. He's going to dive down, try and get down to that white line through 3 and 4. Does kind of a late apexing the corner. He's going to come out of turn number 4, go into that little bit of cloud cover on the front stretch. A lot of these drivers will be a little bit disappointed because that cloud cover hasn't yet made it to the corners as AJ Digby, oh, look at that. That was Johnny Berardi in the number 99 coming back up the racetrack there. Oh, Digby's in the wall coming out of turn number 2. So I think you'll have to probably scrap that lap there and head back to the pits as You look on board with the number 2 of Dominic Lee, and ooh, he got a little bit squirrely coming off pit road. He's down in the grass down there, Cameron. That seems like already indications that this track is already pretty slick.
Yeah, and we saw AJ Digby kind of just hit the wall after a lap, and that's really telling me that these tires are absolutely just, they've had enough after one lap. Dominic Lee getting really loose on the backstretch, about spinning the car out. It's like we still have some cloud cover, but I think the sun has peeked through the cloud just a little bit, so maybe it's playing havoc with these drivers.
Currently, Dave Wilson up top with a 30.629 second lap. AJ Digby currently in second. Billy Weis is third in the number 32 machine. Good lap by him. Kyle Zimmer fourth, 1,000th of a second behind Billy Weis. Tim Masters currently in the 5th position here in qualifying, as Thomas Weis is currently out on track in the number 1. You're watching the 25 of Kyle Zimmer there on the center of your screen. And let's see what Kyle can do around this 1.5 mile racetrack. You see he gets down right close to the grass through turns through the quad oval, excuse me, and that was a great lap by Kyle Zimmer. He jumps above AJ Digby by 1/1000th of a second. So move Kyle Zimmer up to the 2nd position. Here comes Tanner Sharp in the number 3 Mountain Dew Chevrolet. He jumps up to the 2nd spot. AJ Digby now has gone to the point. So I think that little bit of cloud cover in turns number 3 and 4, Cameron, I think that really helped.
Yeah, you got to think, I'm watching the track temperature, and it's actually gone down to 98, which is, I believe, a little bit cooler than it was at the start. So you got to think these drivers are enjoying that extra grip they're getting, especially through turns 3 and 4. I think, Peter, that turns 3 and 4 is so bumpy, and that's really where the issues happen if you're going to get loose or tight, really. Even that end of the speedway is just, it plays havoc on the handling of the car so much, and it's probably where we're going to see most issues tonight, if we do see any.
Fernando Matos there scraping the wall just a little bit. There's Dave Wilson in the number 20 Cadbury Toyota, and he's going to come to the line this time. Dave Wilson's going to improve his lap time, but he's going to stay 3rd. Right behind him is the number 9 of Tim Masters, currently sitting in the 6th position here in his Chevrolet. Tim Masters is going to peel it off on the back stretch, but Dave Wilson's going to stay out and try and get a 2nd lap in. Try and use this cloud cover to his advantage. There's still pretty decent cloud cover in turns number 3 and 4, but I think that cloud is starting to disappear just a little bit, and that will, of course, hurt some of these lap times. So I'll be interested to see if that is going to be setting your starting lineup. We only have about 30 seconds left here in qualifying, and with the sun now back out over on the, well, at least halfway through 3 and 4. There is Dominic Lee. He has yet to set a lap time in that number 2 Toyota. He's coming to the line this time. He's going to set a 30.482. Move Dominic Lee up to the outside front row provisionally here with about 10 seconds left.
Yeah, I was watching him, and that was a pretty solid lap. Ooh, hard hit for the 25 on the inside wall, but he's going to be all right for his starting spot anyway. That 2 was on a pretty good lap, and able to get it in right before qualifying ended, so good for that.
All right, well, qualifying here as it winds down. A couple of drivers still out there on the track trying to get their last little gasp in here. Nate Catilla, one of those drivers, he heads to the line, not able to improve his lap time. Chris Roberge also on track in the number 98 machine. Don't think he'll be able to improve his lap time this lap, but we'll wait and see. He heads to the line, not able to do so. Number 98 will. Ooh, Tanner Sharp right at the last second has put his number 3 Chevrolet on the pole. Wow, that was right at the checkered flag.
I think we saw a little bit of strategy there. He waited to the very last second to pop that lap out, but Tanner Sharp going to start on the pole.
Yeah, we don't need you to pop anything else out, Cameron. But Tanner Sharp will be starting this race on the pole with an absolute stellar lap right there at the end of qualifying. And we'll take you through the grid here. And like we said, Tanner Sharp, that number 3 Mountain Dew Chevrolet, watch out for him. He is on a mission to get the W tonight, I can tell you that much. And starting to his outside is AJ Digby, winner in the Truck Series at Indianapolis earlier this year. And that sets up row number 2, the Dominic Lee, newcomer to the league. This is his first B-car race with us. He's going to be starting on the inside of row number 2. Alongside him, the 25 of Kyle Zimmer.
Starting 5th, we have the 20 of David Wilson, finishing 2nd at Daytona, and to his outside, Billy Weis. And row number 4, excuse me, we have Nate Catilla at number 4 machine and Tim Masters.
And on row number 5, the number 98 of Christopher Burge and the number 13 of Alan Capers. And following them on row number 6 is Fernando Matos and Thomas Weis.
All right, starting 13th, we have the number 56 machine of Tom Johnson, and to his outside, Johnny Berardi, the 99. Kevin Cochran in 15th place in the 80th machine, and Doug McCollum to his outside in 16th. And starting shotgun on the field, we got Brian Lohead in the 66 machine, and don't count him out ever, though, because we usually see him not qualify or qualify in the back. He's always there at the end, so you Brian Lohead fans out there, do not worry about that. But Peter, this should be a pretty interesting race. It's gonna be a good seeing these drivers wheel these cars around this track. It's always fun watching them slide around and race in last week's events at Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a pretty decently long race here tonight. It's 108 laps around the Atlanta Motor Speedway, so these drivers will have to exercise quite a bit of patience here in the early running, so they'll be able to get their cars to the end, because you don't really want to end up spinning these cars all too early, because it can put you in a hole very early on. But 108 laps here tonight, that is just over 150 miles, and should be really fun.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a test of endurance and all that kind of physicalness, especially with this league of disabled drivers. It'll be a good showing for them, see how they can tackle this track, because it really is physical. But the pace car is off field in the hands of Tanner Sharp and AJ Digby, and the green flag is out here at Atlanta. Oh, wheel spin. Tanner Sharp gets a little bit squirrely. AJ Digby is going to take the lead in turn 1. And Peter, that's one thing we didn't mention is restarts at this track. Very treacherous, because you do tend to have wheel spin just because of the low grip nature of this track.
Yeah, I was surprised that there was wheel spin there on the initial start, but AJ Digby definitely took advantage of it, and he's able to scoot away just a little bit. Ooh, look at the number 2, Dominic Lee, just showing his nose to the inside of Tanner Sharp, not able to do anything yet. But there is a little bit of rear end damage on that number 3 machine, and Dominic Lee has some front end damage from that contact after Tanner Sharp spun his tires, but everyone stays nice and green. Here comes Dave Wilson. He's going to poke his nose to the inside of Kyle Zimmer, but Kyle Zimmer running that high line. They're side by side. That's a battle for the 4th position halfway down the back stretch, and I think Dave Wilson will take this spot if he's able to get back on the throttle soon enough, and indeed he does. So move Dave Wilson up into 4th, and it looks like Dominic Lee there clipped the apron in turn number 3 and 4, and that really caused him to lose a little bit of ground on your race leaders, but still AJ Digby out front. It looks like Nate Catilla in the number 4 machine. He's had some issues with his VR headset, it looks like, and unfortunately he's going to start this race a couple of laps down. There's the number 99 still on pit road as we have battle for the race lead. Tanner Sharp started on the pole, dropped back a little bit early on, but he's going to dive to the inside of AJ Digby. Oh, almost contact there coming out of turn number 4. Yeah, but Tanner Sharp has the preferred line off into turn number 1. I think he will clear Digby here. Indeed he does. So move that number 3 Chevrolet to the front.
Yeah, that was close there. Really close racing here early on. And we have a battle for 3rd place. Here comes David Wilson on the outside. Power move around Dominic Lee. He got a great run off of turn number 2, but I was going to say, these guys racing like it's the last lap almost, and they have 105 or so to go, so really fun to watch, but you have to keep it in check and make sure we don't get any issues. But David Wilson here holding tough on that outside line. I think we're going to see that line come into more effect later on this race as these tires wear out, but he takes 3rd place, and pretty single file throughout the field. No real battles to show as of yet. Tanner Sharp and AJ Digby kind of running the same lap times. They're not really too far from each other, but I'll have to see if Tanner Sharp burns off his tires, because we do know that is something that can happen if you kind of sprint out to the lead and you know, run quick lap times, those rear tires or even the fronts can just melt away, and after that you're in for a ride.
One driver I would like to highlight here at this point in the race is Chris Roberge. He started in the 9th position. He's already up into the top 5. There he is in his number 98 machine, trying to gain a little bit more momentum. He has a lot of momentum coming off that race win at Daytona last week, but Chris Roberge, he's definitely trying to cement himself as a player here in the B-Car Series. Only one round complete in the championship, this being round number 2. That's how numbers typically go, Peter. But anyway, these drivers out there on track with almost 100 laps to go. Everyone kind of pacing themselves.
And we got to remember, this is a full Xfinity shadow schedule. I want to say the sponsor name because of legal obligations, but anyway, yes, this does mirror the schedule of the real life NASCAR series, so we will have all of the races for you to cover on 3-Wide TV. But we do have a battle for the lead here. AJ Digby looking on the bottom of Tim Sharp, not going to be able to make a move. Looks like he lost the nose a little bit, getting right up next to him. A little close to the wall, but now David Wilson has entered this battle, so we have a 3-car race for the lead, and looks like Wilson's making use of that high side very well. He's running quick lap times.
Yeah, Dave Wilson running just a little bit higher than these two in front of him, and you know, that does help save your tires just a little bit. It's not as tight of a radius up there, and you also get a little bit straighter shot up off the corner, so you can usually get the power down a little bit. Here goes Dave Wilson. You see he actually had a little bit later entry into the corner. He's trying to not hit that apex early on, but wait just a little bit to go down to hit the apex, and he's definitely picking up speed as he's caught the back end of AJ Digby there. He had to back off on entrance into turn number 3, but he was closed up right on the back bumper of Digby, and we'll have to see if he's able to get by here. Watch these slightly different lines. I think Digby's trying what Wilson's been doing, but you can see that, Digby got a little bit loose coming off the corner. I think, you know, Digby might be trying something a little bit different, trying to run a little bit higher line. I think it worked for him there until he got loose. So at this point in the run, we're 10 laps into this opening run. Cameron and I said this earlier, about 10 laps is when you start to get a little bit squirrely up off the corner, and we saw that last lap with Digby. Yeah,
I'm watching some of these guys, and they really are starting to lose the rear end a little bit. And it makes sense. The track is 104 degrees, so really, really hot here, and it's going to be a challenge. But particularly speaking, one thing, looks like we have a battle for, what is that, 5th place?
Yeah,
that's actually 6th place, Kyle Zimmer and Dominic Lee. It's like Zimmer might have let him by, just went on the bottom of the track, or he might have just got a little bit loose, but either way. Actually, that's not Dominic Lee, excuse me, that is Chris Roberge. My apologies, but move Chris Roberge to the 5th spot.
Doug Mccollum did start the race in the number 33 machine. He's pulled down pit road, not quite sure what's going on with that Chevrolet, but we'll have to keep an eye on, see if he's able to come back out on track. Hopefully he is. But yeah, definitely these drivers starting to get a little bit squirrely. Look at Dave Wilson. He's gone to the inside of Digby, trying to make it work down there, but that number 20 Toyota just really, really squirrely coming out of turn number 4. Not quite able to get the power down quite in time to clear AJ Digby yet. But Wilson does have that inside line, that sharper radius down there. It's the fastest way around the track. And Wilson's going to move up into the 2nd position. So, oh man, look at the number 98. That's Chris Roberge back there getting a little bit squirrely up off the corner. Him and Kyle Zimmer both back there. I've seen both of their tails fishing out on the straightaways. So everyone kind of getting a little bit loose here.
And one thing I noticed at the front, which actually allowed David Wilson to get by AJ Digby, is AJ actually kind of lost the nose off turn number 2. As we see, it looks like Wilson got very close to the wall. We saw him, the rear end step out a little bit, but AJ actually lost the nose off turn number 2. And as the 20 of Wilson pulled up behind him, he also lost the nose and actually got pushed loose, which is where you get tight and then you start cranking the wheel and then you lose the rear end because of that. So really interesting to see how the track is playing havoc to these guys up here. But Dave Wilson not letting Tanner Sharp get too far away. The gap's only about 0.3 of a second, and it looks like it's closing a little bit. Dave Wilson actually gets a very good run off turn number 2, running that a little bit higher line as he has all race. And yeah, just keeping Tanner Sharp in his sights. Looks like we're going to have a battlefield lead here in just a moment.
AJ Digby, I've been watching him as Dave Wilson got really close to that wall coming through the quad oval there. Digby tried a really high line that last lap in turns 3 and 4. It didn't quite look like it worked for him. He lost some ground on the leaders in front of him, but he looked pretty stable up off the... Digby getting really squirrely coming off the corner. He's way down there as you watch this battle just a little bit further back. There is the 14 machine of Digby. Definitely starting to lose some of that back end on the number 14. But here comes Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer trying to still find a way around Chris Verberge. Not quite able to find that pass yet. Looks like a little bit squirrely even through the quad oval, Cameron. It's starting to get like really. Look at Matos in the wall. Fernando Matos in the 17 hit the wall there coming through the quad oval. Just as we were saying, the quad oval is looking pretty treacherous. It looks like it came out and grabbed Fernando.
Yeah, and one thing that's actually interesting is when these tires start wearing and you lose their grip, you hit the apron there a little bit, got in the wall a little bit, that's actually would have been fine if it weren't for that safer barrier sticking out a couple inches. But Peter, as I was saying, one thing that actually is interesting about this track, when the tires wear, really that quad oval can start to become the hardest place on the track because it really just wants to spin out there. And when you're in the corner, of course, you're off the gas, you're on the brakes, and the car's, it's not gripping the track, but it's not trying to wreck it either for the most part. But really, we have a battlefield lead here. Here comes David Wilson on the bottom of Tanner Sharp. Looks like Tanner got held up by the lap car of Tim Masters a little bit, but Dave Wilson going to wisely back out of that, because if he would have made that move, he would have pushed up really bad in turn 1, and probably there would have been a crash. But good racing here at the front so far.
Well, we almost saw an accident there. There's Tim Masters in the number 9, just behind your race leaders. Masters clipped the wall. Watch this on replay. He clips the wall right there. I think he might have been a little bit hesitant there with Digby coming up the track just a little bit, but Masters did a masterful job of sliding and getting that thing pointed straight as we stay green here at Atlanta. But look at this battle for the race lead. Cooking still. Dave Wilson still just right behind the number 3. Oh, look at those 2 cars dancing down the back stretch. I saw the number 2, Dominic Lee. He was fishtailing like crazy down the back stretch. It was almost porpoising that number 2 Toyota. And we're starting to see that now out of your 2 race leaders. And guys, these 2 leaders are racing like crazy, for Tanner try and keep the lead, but for Wilson to try and get the lead. Don't think they're not trying as you ride on board with the number 20. This will be a good indication of how loose these cars are at this present moment in time. Oh, contact with the outside wall. Dave Wilson smacks the fence. Just as we're saying, this will be a good indication of how loose they actually are. I think that tells all.
Yeah, just really, you see him running a little bit higher up. He cuts down a little bit here off the exit and just loses the rear end just a little bit on the very, very late exit. I don't think it'll hurt that car too much. Just a little bit of scraping here and there, but definitely sparks flying at this stage of the race. And I don't want to say it now, Peter, because I usually jinx it, but we're 20 laps in, and this has the look of a green flag run. You're probably gonna have to think about pitting here in about 30 laps or so. And really, this track we see the prevailing strategy for most of the field is to short pit, which, if anyone doesn't know, is where you pit a little bit off sequence before your fuel actually runs out, so you can get fresh tires and make up some ground.
Yeah, I would think if I'm one of these drivers, I'd be thinking about cutting this race into thirds, which means you probably have about another 12 laps or so before you need to come down pit road. 13 or 14 maximum till you come down pit road. Come on, get some 4 fresh tires. I'm watching these lap times. Tanner Sharp so far with the fastest lap of the race with a 30.589. These drivers are about 2.5 seconds slower right now out there, so that's a lot of fall off.
Yeah, we see Billy Weis going by Kyle Zimmer. That's for P6. Good run for Billy. Had some bad luck as of late, but it's good to see him running good, pretty well right now in that sunshine-themed car. orange and red. So Tanner Sharp get really loose off turn number 2, but gonna be in the correct groove for turn 3. Dave Wilson actually getting a good run through turn number 4 here. Ooh, both these cars are loose. You gotta think, when you're in the driver's seat with cars like that, it's gotta be really fun, but it's also really frustrating because you just want the car to grip and it just won't do it.
Fernando Matos' last lap went rally crossing through the infield grass on the front straightaway. That number 17 truck, or number 17 car, wrong street, man, wrong day of the week. I can't talk right now. But number 17, Fernando Matos, going through the grass just a little bit there. As look at this again, battle for the race lead, still nice and hot. We're now 25 laps down.
And don't look now, AJ Digby, the fastest car on the track. He's actually caught these guys really quickly. I'm not sure who gave him the special tires, but he might have just said, early on this run, I'm going to cool my stuff. I'm going to just kind of take it chill, take it easy a little bit, and I think it's paying off because he's definitely running these 2 leaders down.
Last time by, AJ Digby ran a 32.990. The 2 leaders ran 33.3, so that's about 0.3 of a second just in a single lap that AJ Digby was faster than both Wilson and Tanner. This time by, Digby pretty much equaled their lap time, but Digby definitely now hot on the heels of that number 20 Cadbury Toyota. Digby getting a little bit loose up off the corner. Man, sometimes watching these guys fishtail down the backstretch is pretty scary from up here in the spectator booth.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in the driver's seat doing that. But then again, I also ran this race officially last night, and it definitely is a handful. It really, it's even hotter for these guys than it is in the official races. So I can't imagine, really how much they're turning the wheels in those cars. It got to be sawing back and forth, and really, AJ Digby still getting loose. He cannot get those rear tires hooked up whatsoever.
And that's one thing, if you use your tires up just a little bit to run down the cars in front of you, all of a sudden it might just disappear from you almost as fast as you caught the cars in front of you, because you might just be putting down the throttle just a little bit sooner than the drivers in front of you, but sometimes that just overheats your tires. So maybe we're starting to see AJ Digby go through kind of a heat cycle on his tires. Maybe we'll see if he drops back a little bit to see if he can cool them off, as both of your leaders going for a little bit of a slide there. Tanner Sharp and Dave Wilson. They're definitely just up there, up at the front, doing their own thing. But let me tell you, I don't think they're really racing each other more than they're racing the track at this point. Oh, look, Tanner Sharp. I think he got a little bit sideways there through the quad oval. But we do have some drivers on pit road. Brian Lowhead, one of those drivers who's come down taking some 4 fresh tires. Thomas Weis also on pit road. Johnny Berardi on pit road. So definitely some drivers thinking about getting some 4 fresh tires at this point in the race. If this race stays green, I would think you could probably make 1 extra pit stop work for you. It definitely, help save the car and try and prevent, any wrecks or accidents you might run into. So that might be a good strategy to have. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. But I don't think these leaders can stay out for too much longer. I would think maybe about another 5-6 laps or so. That will just about cut the race in thirds. And that's when I kind of expect to see Tanner Sharp, Dave Wilson, AJ Digby on pit road. But, these drivers might have something else in mind. We'll have to watch and see how that plays out. But with these, with the fall off so great here, definitely undercutting all your other drivers around you could also pay dividends, as you can see some drivers headed off pit road. There is Thomas Weis coming off pit road.
And that's what I think, if you're a driver like Brian Lowhead, he was running about 12th or 13th before pitting, and, really, if you're running back there, it really just, I would say go ahead and take the chance, pit a little bit early and see if you might get a caution, because the time you gain by pitting early is going to be pretty invaluable. Ooh, really close here. Here comes Dave Wilson, really close to the 3 of Tanner Sharp. He's actually going to go for the lead here. I don't think he got it at the line. No, he did not, but that was really, really close. I think Tanner got a little bit loose from losing that downforce on the spoiler. But anyway, move Dave Wilson to the lead.
Yeah, well, now Dave Wilson has to experience all that air on his nose. He hasn't yet experienced the air on his nose, and I think that's what caught him out there. He got a little bit loose coming out of turn number 2. And there goes, Tanner Sharp dives it in to turn number 3, and he had to check up as, almost contact. Those two drivers once again battling over-under maneuver there by Dave Wilson to lead that lap. That's Dave's first lap led of the race. So we've seen the lead go back and forth between these two. Maybe Dave Wilson can take what he learned last lap with all that extra downforce on that nose and keep it a little bit straighter. He flirts with the outside wall, but stays off of it ever so slightly and moved. Dave Wilson now looks like he's got that race lead. He's moved up to the front.
And I got to think that these guys are going to have, like you said, Peter, we're at that third mark, or actually we're about to be at that third mark in the race. I was actually doing some wrong math here. We're full of wrong math today up in the booth, but these guys are going to be definitely thinking about pitting here in just a few laps, and really, you kind of want to be that first car coming down pit road just because you kind of control the sequence. You see Wilson hit the wall in the straightaway a little bit, no harm, no foul, throwing sparks up, probably just to distract Tanner. It's all good. But really, it helps to be that first car coming onto pit road because you just get that coming down pit road first. You don't have to be behind other cars. You can see your pit box easy. Things you really don't think about too much, but that might be what they're thinking about. But we see the difference in fresh versus old tires here. Here's the 66 of Brian Lowhead. He's actually 2 laps down, but he is so much quicker than all these cars because he pitted already about 5 laps ago, I believe. But he's going to want to get around these cars and get 1 lap back.
Yeah, and this is a pretty treacherous spot to be in if you're Brian Lowhead because you got all these leaders, and my goodness, they're just dancing around this racetrack up off these corners, hanging out the rear ends of their machines. And if you're Brian Lowhead, you got all this grip, and you can really so far put your number 66 machine wherever you kind of want to. But almost contact there. I think Dave Wilson did have some contact with the outside wall, and that's going to open the door for Tanner Sharp. We'll have to see what Lowhead's going to do. Sharp dives it in. He's going to wash up the racetrack, but here comes Dave Wilson around the outside. Dave is fighting back, and Dave is going to lead the lap once again. But my goodness, that was almost heartbreak for those 2 leaders coming off of turn number 2.
And Brian Lowhead is really giving these 2 cars a break. Ooh, we're really close off 2 again. These guys are racing like they've been racing like it's the last lap since lap 2, but really, Brian Lowhead giving these guys a break. He's actually going to let AJ Digby by because, he is so much quicker. He could go wherever he wanted. He can really probably go up next to that wall and just fly past him, but he's letting these 2 guys race it out, and I have to imagine those 2 are going to be very thankful of that as this race progresses.
Fastest car on track right now is Thomas Weis. He has made his first pit stop of the race already, so he's definitely pretty fast out there. He's about 1.5 seconds faster than your race leaders on those fresher tires. So we'll have to see how those fresh tires pan out in the long run. But here comes Tanner Sharp showing his nose once again on the number 20 of Dave Wilson. But Wilson's going to get a good run coming out of turn number 4. And Brian Lowhead just has nowhere to go with these 2 cars racing right in front of him. And I'm sure that's a little bit frustrating for Lowhead as he tries to get one of his 2 laps back in that number 66 machine.
And you got to think, though, Peter, it's a little bit frustrating for Tanner, too, because that car is filling up his mirrors, and he can't do anything about it. He's actually going to pull out. Ooh! 20 got in the wall a little bit. He's really slow going into turn 3. It looks like he just got a little bit squirrely. He might go ahead and just come down pit road this lap. I have to imagine that's what he's going to do, and yes, he does. So, David Wilson going to come down pit road. Probably, really skittish into the entry. I think he made pit road speed, but we'll have to go ahead and double check that, but yeah, that's another thing we didn't mention. When these tires are all worn out and hot, it's so hard to get on pit road here because you don't have grip on the track and you don't have grip slowing down either.
Yeah, it looks like Wilson did get down to 50 miles an hour just before the white striped enter pit road. So looks like a clean entry for Mr. Wilson as that crew goes to work. Tanner Sharp still on track, but here he comes down pit road. He's decided he's seen enough of these 4 Goodyear Eagles. He gets down to 50 miles an hour at the stripe. Really good entry there by Tanner Sharp. I feel like Tanner got just about everything he could there coming to pit road. Dave Wilson headed off. He's going to have 1 lap older tires than Tanner Sharp when it's all said and done. but we'll have to see how that plays out. Here comes Dominic Lee in the number 2 Toyota. He's got a little bit of front end damage on that machine, so we'll have to see if he uses a fast repair here. I would think he would at this present moment in time. And now your race leader is the number 14 of AJ Digby. Digby's still running out there on those old tires. See if he can make up some ground the hard way on those old tires. I don't know how that's going to work out for him. Maybe he's going to try for a possible one-stop strategy, which could be a little bit interesting, but Digby really squirrely. I'm watching him. He's down the back stretch. But wow, look at that. You saw Dave Wilson flash by Tanner Sharp, and I thought Tanner got just about everything getting to pit road. But Wilson, with those one-lap fresher tires, he's about half a straightaway ahead of Tanner Sharp. That's really amazing.
I think that's just that difference of, 2 seconds per lap on tires or so. I have to imagine. Actually, we need to look at lap times to see how much time AJ is losing on this strategy. He just ran a 33.4 last lap, and Dave Wilson is running 31 flats, so almost 2.5 seconds there per lap that AJ is losing to Dave Wilson. And I gotta imagine he's gonna have to stretch that to do that one stop, and we'll see if he can do that, but it's definitely a bold strategy.
Yeah, he has about 10 more laps on the track if he's going to make this strategy work in that number 14 Ford. But look at this. Here comes Dave Wilson. Dave Wilson trying to unlap himself, put himself back on the lead lap. And that number 20 machine is absolutely flying. This won't even be a battle. See ya later, Dave, as Wilson has flown by Digby. Digby, once again, he is your race leader, but he's on some older tires at this present moment in time. That last time by, Dave Wilson running a 30.7 to Digby's 33.3. So 2.6 seconds that lap. Dave Wilson was faster than Digby. And Digby just leading time out there on track. He's really hoping that he can make his strategy work out there, because if he doesn't get a caution soon, when he finally does come down and pit, he's going to be way behind the eventual race leader. As it's getting pretty loose out of there. Here comes Billy Weis, driver number 32. He's had a really good showing here so far. He's going to hit his marks in that bright red and yellow machine. So he's come down pit road. And Cameron, he did quite. Ooh, look at that! That was someone getting really loose. Not sure who that was. That's Alan Capers in the number 13. Got all squirrely coming out of the corner. Capers still out there on his the tires he started with. So he's another one of those drivers trying this long game strategy, as Tanner Sharp's able to scoot on by the number 13. And that was actually a pass for position. Tanner Sharp moving up into the 6th position there, passing Kevin Cochran. So some of these drivers on fresher tires are already starting to pass some of the other drivers on the older tires. And there is, oh, we have a caution. So this is going to play into the hands of AJ Digby. It's on the front stretch. It's the 99 of Johnny Berardi. That looks like he's gone around. Ooh, there's the number 1 of Thomas Weis, possibly also involved. Yeah, the 99 just kind of sliding through the grass. Oh! The number 1 machine there, Thomas Weis, on the scene. Unfortunately, on the scene, not in the way he was hoping to be on the scene, getting into the 99. And it looks like the 99 just got loose coming out of turn number 4 and tried his best all the way down the straightaway to save it, but eventually the grass caught him out, and the number 1 car had nowhere to go. But man, oh man, Cameron, that really worked out for AJ Digby. He's got the lead out of it. You would have to think he has to come down and pit at this point, but man, here we go, riding on board with Thomas Weis. You just see that spinning number 99 in front of me. He tried to slow down and figure out a way by, but unfortunately it was a little bit too late, as that number 99 was right in his way. But like we said, that really worked out for the 14 of AJ Digby. He is your race leader. Looks like the first man 1 lap down is Dominic Lee, and the number 2, he will be the lucky dog. We have a couple of other drivers who have already pitted, and they might think about using the wave around, but that's going to be really tricky with the tire wear here. But AJ Digby will lead your lead runners down pit road here, and Christopher Burge looks like he's staying out on track to possibly lead a lap here. He didn't lead the last lap, but we'll have to see if he stays or continues to stay out in that number 98 machine. There is the number 20, Dave Wilson, already coming down to take tires. He was one of those on fresher tires, much fresher than AJ Digby, but at a track like Atlanta where tires mean so much, Wilson's decided to come down and pit. There's the number 25, Kyle Zimmer. He was one of those drivers who had yet to pit. He's going to get some good track position out of this one, as that number 25 is, they got the left side tires up on that number 25, and down and away he goes.
And interesting enough, AJ Digby had such a lead coming to pit road that he was already down and away before Kyle Zimmer even pulled into his pit stop, or his pit box. So really no pressure to perform on there, but either way, Kyle Zimmer is going to lead the rest of the field off pit road behind AJ Digby.
And Christopher Burge in the number 98. Looks like he will stay out and lead a lap. Here come your lap down cars coming down pit road. There's Fernando Matos in the number 17 and Johnny Berardi in the number 99. So there is your race leader, Christopher Burge. I think he will come down and pit. I don't think he'll stay out there on older tires. I think at a track like Atlanta Motor Speedway, you don't really want to be out there on 51 lap old tires. I think that would just not be a good idea.
Yeah, he would just be spinning those rear wheels until tomorrow, really, with how old those tires are. We already saw it on the restart with fresh tire, or the initial start, on fresh tires. Tanner Sharp getting a little bit squirrely. So if Chris tried that, it would probably be a really not so good wreck for the entire field.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he'll come down this time, but the pace car lights are still on, so we still have a few laps here of pacing at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but that just about got us, Cameron, to the halfway mark of this event, and with the halfway mark comes the halfway bonus points, and you'd have to think that once Roberge does peel off and go down pit road, once Digby assumes the lead, you think Digby would pretty much be the favorite to get that halfway bonus point since he will command this restart here, but like we've seen all season here, or at least in the Truck Series, and last week at Daytona here in the B-Car Series, these drivers definitely put on a show. Pace car lights off. Oh, looks like Tim Master getting a little bit squirrely there just in front of AJ Digby going through the rough RT12. Oh, Tim Masters clipping the wall, I think, a little bit there, and I think he's possibly doing
some
all he
issues
can
there
to
with that
save.
car or something.
I think that could just be the old tires. It just doesn't look like those tires are hooking up on that number 9 machine, and I'm keeping an eye. I think Tim Masters has about 26 laps on his tires, and they're just not hooking up for him at all. He's fishtailing down the backstretch at about 130 miles an hour, and I think Tim might think better of taking the wave around here. He did take the wave around, probably hoping for a quick caution, but I think Tim has realized that might not be the best option, and he's actually come to pit road right now.
Yeah, even if he did take the wave around and make it to the end of the pack, those tires are so old that he probably would end up getting lapped again in about 10, 15 laps with how slow that car is going to be. So really, wave rounds here, unless you only have a couple laps in the tires, it's really not a viable strategy move to make. But anyway, the pace car is off field in the hand of AJ Digby and Kyle Zimmer. AJ gets a great restart on the bottom line. Those tires still can. Oh no! Ooh, that was almost a wreck right there. I was saying, I said way too early that those tires were hooking up, but obviously not, because he pulled right in front of Kyle Zimmer, just out of control there. But all no harm, no foul. Everybody's still going straight.
Great job by the field to check up and not run into the back of Digby, who was very sideways. Here comes the number 2 of Dominic Lee. He's to the inside of the 25, Kyle Zimmer. That is a battle for position. Dominic in the 5th position currently on the racetrack. Right behind him is the number 13 of Alan Capers. So Capers with a pretty good, solid run here so far tonight. And there is Tanner Sharp. He has led most of this race in that number 3 machine, but he's now trying to chase down the number 20 of Dave Wilson. This is the halfway lap, so the leader of this lap will get a bonus point here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and that looks like it's going to be Dave Wilson leader at the halfway mark. There's the battle still going on between the 25 of Zimmer and Dominic Lee in the number 2. Dominic Lee is going to drive it right down to the bottom here in turns number 1 and 2. He found some grip down there on that white line, and he's going to take that number 2 truck, or number 2 car. Man, I can't remember what night it is. That number 2 car up into the 4th position now. He's going to set his eyes on AJ Digby in the number 14.
I think you might have been a little bit jumping the gun there when you said AJ was the favorite for leading that halfway bonus lap, because of course we saw what happened there, and Dave Wilson gets it, but single file pretty much through the top 10 so far. No real battles on the track. Tanner Sharp actually a little bit quicker than Dave Wilson that last lap. Going to try to run him down, and of course we've seen these two drivers race really hard all race, and can't imagine that that's going to stop anytime soon.
One thing I do want to highlight here for all you Christopher Burge fans watching, Chris came down pit road and actually made an additional pit stop under green flag conditions here. He's currently 1 lap down in the 11th position, so I'll have to keep an eye on Chris. He's had a great night going, but finds himself 1 lap down here just over halfway, as it looks like Kyle Zimmer is trying to take that position back from Dominic Lee if he can. He's going to jump down to the inside in that number 25 ride, and he's not quite able to clear Dominic, but I think he will here in turns number 1 and 2. Very close. They're going off into the corner, but that number 25 Chevrolet back up into the 4th position.
Yeah, and we saw Kyle back off really early in the 3. Dominic actually drove it in pretty deep, slid up the track a little bit, and saw Kyle get to the gas a lot earlier, so able to make that move. Oh, wow, really close on the bumper of Zimmer there for Dominic. He's really driving it into 3, but I don't think it's really netting him any gain because he's losing so much time off 4. And saw it there, he almost hit the back of Zimmer's car, but everything good on that front.
Yeah, that's definitely something as drivers you have to be careful of. You have to be mindful of the fact that you're not the only other car on the racetrack, and different drivers drive the same track differently. And definitely Kyle Zimmer backing up his corners a little bit, as, ooh, it looks like a little bit of right side damage on that number 3 machine. He's lost quite a bit of ground on Dave Wilson. And Cameron, I think that damage is pretty new. I didn't see it a few laps ago, so I think Tanner Sharp's had an excursion with the outside retaining wall here at Atlanta. We'll have to keep an eye on whether or not that affects his race pace. He's still holding station in the 2nd position in that bright green Mountain Dew Chevrolet. And here comes Kyle Zimmer. He's closing in on the back of AJ Digby. I'm watching lap times currently. Currently, Christopher Burge is the fastest man on track.
20 in the wall hard.
Oh, yeah, Dave Wilson hard in the outside wall. He's going to lose the race lead. He's got a lot.
Digby in the wall.
Digby smacked the wall. Everyone's hitting the wall.
Is there oil on the track or something? Wow.
You can hit the wall. You can hit the wall. No, that's not Oprah. But watch this coming out of turn number 4. Oof. Man, that is a hefty lick on the right side of that number 20. And I think that's definitely going to affect his pace here. Aerodynamics and suspension geometry are pretty important at a track that is as fast as Atlanta Motor Speedway. So for Dave Wilson's sake, I bet you he's hoping he can get a caution, come down and fix that damage, as Kyle Zimmer is starting to close in on the back of that number 20. And that number 20 a little bit sideways coming out of turn number 2 there yet again.
Yeah, I can tell that car's handling is hurt because he's pulling it right onto the apron to try to get it to turn. So I think he's a little bit tight and just still not turning for him. Looks like he almost hit the wall again off turn number 4. So really needs a caution to get that thing fixed up, because he's gonna keep bleeding time to Zimmer and Sharp here.
And move Kyle Zimmer up into the 2nd position in that Rebel Racing Chevrolet. Wilson's gonna try and come back at him, but I don't think he can really do anything with that damaged car. Oh, he hits the wall on entry into turn number 3. That's going to open the door for AJ Digby just a little bit, but Digby, he's got some right side damage of himself, and then it's a little bit further back to Dominic Lee just on the top, so he got shot there. So Dave Wilson in that number 20 machine, he's now under fire from Mr. AJ Digby.
And no surprise here, Kyle Zimmer was the fastest car on track, of course, being the only one of those top 4 without damage. Oh, Digby gets really loose off turn number 2, excuse me. Can't talk because words are hard, but pulled it to the apron and going to lose 5th spot to Dominic Lee here.
Well, hold on, not so fast. Dominic Lee drives it down hard into turn number 3. And oh, it gets loose! Oh my gosh, almost contact. I could have sworn there was going to be coming together there between Dominic Lee and AJ Digby, but Dominic was able to right that ship and keep it going straight. And those two drivers definitely still racing hard here and going for that position. Lee finally able to clear Digby's machine, but man, I almost thought that was going to end in tears for both of those drivers.
Yeah, he was really high up next to that wall, kind of running the Kyle Larson line, if you will. And looks like a rear hook got a little bit swirly, but all is good on that, and he takes the 4th spot away from AJ Digby.
Looking at your top 5 drivers, currently Dominic Lee and Kyle Zimmer, the only 2 drivers in the 32.4 second bracket. All of your other leaders are running a 32.5. So keeping an eye on Zimmer and Lee. Both of those cars don't appear to have any damage at this present moment in time. So they're definitely getting full downforce on their car, helping them navigate this 1.5 mile track. That's really, I know Darlington has the track that's too tough to tame, but Atlanta's pretty tough to tame as well, as it is super, super slippery. It's, ooh, David Wilson, man, he got a little bit slippery and sideways out of turn number 2 once again. So this is that point in the run where you start to see these cars fishtail. Oh, Dave Wilson! Oh, there he goes! Oh, he's trying to keep it straight, hard in the outside wall. We're still green. Maybe I spoke too soon. As he's coming back down the track. Caution will have to be out here. No caution. There's the caution. My oh my. Somebody give the flagman a shot of adrenaline or something, because obviously he's asleep or something. Man, Dave Wilson, that was possibly the slowest accident in the history of iRacing, because you ride this on board and it happened just about here in the middle of the corner where that back end kicks out. You see that right there. He goes up to save it and he clips the outside wall there, which turns that number 20 into the outside wall, and he's doing everything he can to save it, but those tires are just overheated at this point, sliding all across the track, and it looks like that number 20 is on ice, but that will we'll have to re-rack the field here and go back to green here in a few laps, but I'm sure everyone will be down pit road.
Yeah, and for him, he's not going to be happy about wrecking, but he can finally get that car fixed up because it had a lot of damage, and really, did a pretty good job not ever spinning it out completely. He was really driving that thing, and right at the very end kind of got 90 degrees on the track, but really good job wheeling that thing and not letting it spin around, because he almost collected some other cars, and they probably would have if he spun it around. But either way, all these cars are going to come down pit road and get 4 fresh tires, and I'm sure they'll be happy about that because they looked pretty squirrely.
Yeah, and if you're Tanner Sharp or Dave Wilson or AJ Digby, I'm sure you're going to get your damage fixed here, as everyone's going to come down and hit their pit box. Everyone doing a fantastic job of getting in their pit box without sliding through. I know that's something that's probably my biggest weakness, is sliding through my pit stall. I tend to do it quite a bit and give up a lot more spots than I gain on pit road, but everyone doing a fantastic job here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Tanner Sharp's going to win the race off pit road. The battle for third is going to go to Dominic Lee, and we had Kyle Zimmer split Sharp and Lee, but Digby will come off 4th in the number 14. Dave Wilson is going to be the 6th man off pit road. He's going to be behind Alan Capers in the number 13. Johnny Berardi in the number 99 there.
Ooh, he's on the wall.
He might have had a little bit of trouble. Those old tires, just like driving on ice here at Atlanta.
Yeah, it looks like he was having some issues all through 1 and 2. I'm not sure what went wrong there, but he definitely lost it, nose it in the wall in the backstretch, and yeah, like you said, it might have been just old tires. Really, I mean, it might sound funny at first, but I have done that before myself, and it's so easy to do, especially like even these old tires just don't want to grip at the slow speeds. So we'll see if we can get that thing fixed up and ready to go.
I don't think you've really played iRacing until you've experienced iRacing's ice tires in one way or another, because at times it really does feel like you're driving on ice, and sometimes it's pretty inexplicable to why they're behaving that way, but sometimes they just do.
Yeah, and when you get that whole, what I like to call death wiggle, you start getting the tires all heated up really quick, and like you said at the beginning of the broadcast, Peter, they just don't come back, and once you get to that point, it's you're hanging on for dear life, and really not fun to drive at that point.
Billy Weis in the number 32 machine is your lucky dog under this caution flag, so he'll bring that number 32 back to the lead lap. He's had a pretty good showing here tonight, has Billy Weis, and I'm sure he'll be glad to be the 7th driver on the lead lap behind Alan Capers, Dave Wilson, AJ Digby, Dominic Lee, Kyle Zimmer, and your race leader, Tanner Sharp. Tanner, of course, he's led the most laps here tonight. If he can lead about another 15 or so laps, he will have led the most laps in this one. No one will be able to surpass the amount of laps that Tanner will have led. So I definitely think that's going to be in his mind, because that is an additional bonus point that they all add up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, you're very right about that, and that's why we saw Christopher Burr stay out a couple laps. Of course, winner from Daytona, and going to want to keep that points lead at all possible. And really, those points do add up. The halfway bonus points, they all add up. And of course, this is a really long season, even for iRacing standards. Full Xfinity schedule, like we said. So going to be a lot of opportunities to get those points.
One thing we're going to have to keep an eye on here on the restart is some drivers on older tires have elected to take the waiver round. Kevin Cochran, Brian Lowhead, Tom Johnson, and Christopher Burge, and Fernando Matos. All of those drivers have more than 17 laps on their tires. So that's going to possibly be a little bit troublesome here on the restart with some wheel spin. We've already seen it out of drivers with completely fresh tires. I mean, AJ Digby spun his tires. Tanner Sharp spun his tires on our 2 starts that we've seen so far in this race, but it could be a little bit more treacherous on those really old tires. But I think that back half of the field, I think they might get a little bit of a running start here.
Pace car is off. Tanner Sharp is your control car, and he gets a little bit squirrely. Here comes Kyle Zimmer and Dominic Lee both looking on him. Kyle Zimmer is actually going to get the run in turn number 1. Looks like the tires still a major issue, even fresh tires on this restart, but Tanner gets the preferred line through 1 and 2, and he's going to pull ahead of these 2 cars.
Yep, and the battle is for second now. Dominic Lee and Kyle Zimmer in the number 25. We've seen these 2 drivers. They've been going at it now basically for the last 2 restarts for about the last 20 or so laps. The number 2 and the number 25 have been pretty close with each other on the racetrack, and a little bit further back. Oh, almost contact there on the entry. In fact, there was contact. I think the number 14 machine got a little bit of right rear damage of AJ Digby and Dave Wilson. Dave Wilson's got a little bit of left front damage on entry to the corner. Digby looks like he just kind of moved up towards the wall and clipped the left front of the number 20. So those 2 cars getting a little bit of damage here. Luckily, no one hard in the outside wall. We stay green, but meanwhile, Dominic Lee, while all that was going on, Dominic has moved up into the 2nd position, and Kyle Zimmer right behind him in 3rd, AJ Digby 4th, Dave Wilson 5th. It's about a 5-car train up at the front. Billy Weis is taking his number 32 machine up to the 6th position, and he's followed by Alan Capers in 7th. Capers slow on the backstretch, not sure what's happening here, but here comes AJ Digby coming back for a spot. Their side-by-side battle for 3rd. Digby looking to the inside of Kyle Zimmer. We've seen these 2 drivers on track today with each other. But I don't know if that number 14 is going to be able to get a run. It looks like Zimmer got a great run coming.
Oh, there goes Kyle Zimmer.
There goes Kyle Zimmer. Kyle Zimmer hard in the inside wall. Down the back stretch. He's spinning. Down there, a little bit of contact there with AJ Digby. No caution here. The number 25 backing up on the racetrack. I would have to think there's going to be a caution thrown. Still no caution. Zimmer well off the racing line. that little nudge right there was enough to send that number 25 hard on the inside wall.
Yeah, and that's going to be a killer for Kyle Zimmer, because that car is absolutely going to be crabbing, and indeed it is. You can see it's not driving straight whatsoever, and he's going to have to come down pit road and get that repaired, and he's going to lose a lap or two. And really, this track, one of the older tracks on the surface, where that apron will not throw a caution whatsoever, and of course just got caught out by that. Unfortunate. Really, no fault on either driver, just hard racing, and you hate to see that.
Yeah, so that's going to move Digby up into the 4th position. I'm sure, that little bit of contact, it's not something that he wanted to see, I'm sure. Dave Wilson now in the 3rd position in the number 20, but Dominic Lee in 2nd. Dominic has not quite been able to have any inroads on Tanner Sharp. Tanner Sharp still running some really, really good lap times, about a 10th and a half faster the last few laps than Dominic Lee in that number 2. Here comes Dave Wilson. Wilson was actually the fastest driver on track that last time in the number 20 machine, so keep an eye on him. There is the number 25. Kyle Zimmer has returned to the racing circuit. For all you Kyle Zimmer fans, he's currently 1 lap down. In fact, he's about 1.7 laps down by my rough calculations.
Now, the bad news for Kyle Zimmer is that he did not take tires on that stop. Of course, trying to spend as little time on pit road as possible, and he's probably going to be chased down by the leader, because those tires, you got to imagine, with spinning like that, is going to be pretty worn out, and see if he can get a caution before that.
The good news for him is that Fernando Matos is although he's the first car 1 lap down right now is Fernando Matos, but Matos has a lot more laps on his tires. In fact, Matos has 30 laps on his tires. So even though Kyle Zimmer did go for that spin, he does have fresher tires than Matos. So we'll have to see if he can close in on Matos and see if he can get in that lucky dog position.
Yeah, that's very true. He's going to want to stay in front of Tanner and catch that 17. So he's got really got it all to do in front of him, and going to be really digging to get that spot.
The bad news is the drivers like Tom Johnson, Brian Lowhead, and Christopher Burge, those drivers who have a lot of laps on their tires, they're on the lead lap currently, but because they have so many laps on their tires, they're a lot slower than this lead train that's on the screen right now. So you're probably going to see Christopher Burge, Lowhead, Tom Johnson, and Kevin Cochran a lap down here pretty quickly if we don't get another yellow flag. In fact, Lowhead that last time by is about 2 seconds slower than your race leader. Just to put it into perspective how much slower those old tires are relative to Tanner Sharp.
And you're not missing anything at the front right now. The top 3 cars of Sharp, Lee, and Wilson about equidistant with each other. And you got to think, though, we're getting down to the later stages of this race. 56 of Tom Johnson getting really loose off turn number 4 there. Like you said, Peter, those old tires of those wave round cars actually got a little bit. Really just have no life left in them anymore, and they're hanging on.
Yeah, last time by, Tanner Sharp was a second half faster than Brian Lowhead. So, you see Lowhead there on the top of your screen in the number 66. It won't be long until you see the number 3 of Tanner Sharp in his rearview mirror here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But speaking of Tanner Sharp, he's now led 54 laps. That means he's led over half the race. And Lowhead's coming down pit road here. He might be hoping to get some fresh tires. We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, Tanner Sharp's now led over half the race, so he will lock up the bonus point for leading the most laps in this one in that number 3 Chevrolet. And earlier this year, I'm not going to I guess I'm not trying to say this to jinx Tanner, but earlier this year on the truck side of things at the Truck Series Atlanta race we had, Tanner Sharp was lightning quick. He led most laps in that event, but when it came down to it, that number 20 of Dave Wilson was able to close in and make the move for the race win. So hopefully Tanner doesn't have that in the back of his mind here, because I'm sure that wouldn't be something good in your mind at this point. You just want to focus on this race and just keep things going straight.
And Kyle Zimmer, actually the fastest car on track right now, running quicker than all of the 3 leaders. So he's gonna have to worry about getting caught, but just gonna have to worry about other cars going a lap down, which it looks like they have. But looks like we have a battle for the lead heating up here. Dominic Lee has well and truly caught Tanner Sharp and actually lost the nose a little bit there, but he was right on the spoiler of that number 3 car. And you know, like you said, Peter, that 20 of Dave Wilson just lurking behind these 2 cars. You know, he's never going to go away. He's such a good driver. He's definitely going to be the running for this win as we get to the end of the race.
Yeah, I'm sure Dave Wilson's hoping that he's seen the outside wall for the last time in this one, but it's kind of interesting. I'm watching your 2 race leaders, Dominic Lee running right down there on the white line. In fact, he's almost yawing out that number 2 Toyota through the center of the corner, getting really loose up off the corner. I was just saying, he runs so close to that white line. Tanner Sharp running about a lane up. So Tanner Sharp trying to get that momentum up just a little bit more than Dominic Lee. And Lee's really driving it into 3 and 4 really hard. Might be trying to use that right front tire a little bit. And that last time by, he drove it in so hard that he actually got a really poor run out of turn number 4. And Dave Wilson now has closed right in on the back of Dominic Lee. So Lee caught Tanner Sharp for a brief second. And now here comes Dave Wilson to the inside of that number 2 Toyota. They dive off into turn number 3, side by side, going through the center of the corner here. They do have the lapped car of Tom Johnson just in front of them. So we'll have to see if these 2 can sort it out before they reach Tom Johnson. Looks like they do, because Dave Wilson has taken that number 20 Cadbury's Dairy Milk Toyota up into the 2nd position.
And he's about 2/10 quicker than Tanner Sharp that last lap. Of course, that could have been because Tanner was negotiating the lap car of Johnson. But definitely, he might have just been sitting back there saving his tires a little bit. You got to think that that probably would be a good strategy at this point in the race, but we'll see what happens. He definitely looks like he's a little bit quicker at this point.
19 laps to go. Dave Wilson was the fastest car on track that last lap. We'll see about this time by. Looks like, again, a 32.575 by Dave Wilson, about a tenth faster than Tanner Sharp. He's running a little bit lower on the track, and oof, looks like Tanner Sharp got a little bit loose out of turn number 2. That's going to hurt his momentum all the way down the back stretch. Dave Wilson going to run a little bit higher on entry into 3 and 4, see what he can find up there as he cuts down late on exit. And Tanner Sharp, just it seems like Tanner's not able to get that power down like Dave Wilson.
Yeah, Wilson's actually running a really late apex, and he's able to get a great run off turn number 4. We'll see if he does the same in turn 2. Looks like he's running just higher around the track in general, so she lost a little bit of time there. He probably lost the nose being up behind 3 for as close as he was.
Now Dave Wilson, he's going to jump back down to the inside line. And yeah, with that late apex, ooh, the 20 car, man, he's really trying. Dave Wilson got a little bit squirrely up off the corner there. But Dave's really trying everything he can to get back up to the back bumper of Tanner Sharp. Here, as we only have 16 laps to go, so it is go time in Atlanta. Ooh, Tim Masters right in front of your race leaders, getting a little bit sideways in the number 9 machine. Hopefully he can stay to the inside here and let the leaders by. He's going to dive off into the corner. That number 9 washes up in front of Dave Wilson, and Wilson's going to have to use some just some patience there to get around that number 9 machine, but that number 9, Tim Masters, looks like he's going to just stay down there on the bottom as the number 1 of Thomas Weis closes up. Weis is down in the 15th position, 5 laps down. And right behind Weis is Dominic Lee, and I'm sure Dominic Lee's getting a little bit frustrated here because he's watching those 2 leaders zip away from him out front of Thomas Weis and Tim Masters, but Lee's finally going to clear that number 9 machine. No, not quite. Oh! Battle for the race lead, just as I exclaimed. Dave Wilson looking got a little bit loose in the quad oval. Here comes Thomas Weis. He's on fresh tires. He's going to dive to the inside of the number 20. He's going to try and pry his way back to being only 4 laps down in that number 1 machine. But man, oh man, Dave Wilson had such a great run coming off the corner that last time by. I thought he might just have the run he needed to get by Tanner Sharp, but we'll have to wait another couple laps as Tanner Sharp getting really loose, Thomas Weis getting really loose, and there's Chris Roberge's. Roberge is going a lap down. Roberge kind of not quite getting in the way there, and that number 98 machine, your Daytona winner there, going one lap down. He was one of those drivers who stayed out as we have a car around on the back stretch. It is Billy, no, excuse me, it is not Billy Weis. Oh, it is Billy Weis, excuse me. Trying to get used to all these B-car schemes, but Billy Weis has gone around out of the corner. Oof, it looks like maybe Johnny Berardi as well getting a piece of that one. But it's kind of a shame to see because Billy Weis has had a fantastic run going here tonight in that number 32.
And David Wilson has not let the 3 get away. He's actually right on the spoiler again. Yeah, really hard hit there for Weis and Berardi. Like you said, it's a shame that Billy Weis was running solidly in 5th, I believe. So, or maybe 5th or 6th place. Been up there all race, but we got about the lead. Here comes Wilson on the outside. He's going to drive around him.
We had the 17 of Fernando Matos that spun through the grass, but Dave Wilson made a move to the high side and was able to make it work in a spot I really didn't think he'd be able to make it work. Watch this move that he pulled. He just got back in the gas really early, pulled that number 20 machine to the outside of Tanner Sharp. There goes Matos going through the grass. I think he might have just been trying to get out of the way of your race leaders. Unfortunately, ended up in the inside wall because of it. But Dave Wilson, with that run out of turn number 4, is able to take the lead as we now only have 10 laps to go.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you there, Peter. That was just a really eventful sequence of events right there with the lead changing hands and the 17 car of Fernando Matos having some issues, but I think the 20 has set sail a little bit here, and Tanner gets spun out by the lap car of Thomas Weis, and that is going to be a caution with 10 laps to go. Tanner got hit by the 98 of Chris Roberge. Nowhere to go for that car, and you got to think Tanner losing the lead about a couple laps ago and getting spun out by the 1, he's going to be pretty hot in that car.
Oh yeah, I would think so, and unfortunately Roberge had nowhere to go, but yeah, definitely I know Tanner was really trying to get back up to the back bumper of Dave Wilson. I saw him coming out of turn number 2, get a little bit sideways, get back on that gas, but looks like I know that number 1 machine was on fresher tires, but looks like he just came up on the back bumper of that number 3, gave him a little bit of a nudge, and that number 3 just went around. Luckily, Tanner's able to bring it back to pit road under his own power. He's still running in the 4th position on track. We only have 6 drivers on the lead lap, so I think Tanner Sharp will be, relatively fine. Ooh, Tanner Sharp sliding
he completely
through the grass.
missed the road there.
So that probably
that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, that will be a black flag, surely. Tanner Sharp there as, and that's going to be a shame because I was just saying he's in the 4th position, and he, that will hurt because he's not the race leader anymore. But he still had a good shot at a good finish. But that's definitely going to give him a black flag here on pit road as everyone's going to race off to the stripe. Dave Wilson will win the race off pit road. AJ Digby 2nd. And then comes the 2 of Dominic Lee. There's the 3 of Tanner Sharp. We expect to see him receive a black flag for speeding on pit road there. A black flag under the caution flag results in end of longest line. We did have 1 car stay out according to our broadcast truck producer. And that would be Alan Capers in that number 13 machine.
And your lucky dog, Kyle Zimmer, like we were saying under green, needed to get into that position. Was a really fast car, and he will be on the lead lap. See what he can do when we go back green.
Well, let's see if we can talk to Dave Wilson, driver of that number 20 machine.
Being stupid. Oh,
hey,
my bad.
Dave Wilson, Peter Short up here in the booth here on 3Wide TV. You got a copy, bud?
Oh, yes, I do.
All right, man. 1 car did stay out here. That's the number 13 of Alan Capers. You're going to be on much, much fresher tires, though. So just to let you know, you have a 31 lap tire advantage over the number 13. But, we've seen restarts be really troublesome for drivers today. How are you not going to spin the tires on this restart, and how are you going to get to victory lane?
Well, recently I've been just taking my time on the gas and not going full throttle right away. I try to ease into it first just to get the revs up, then near the top of the second gear, that's whenever I start pushing it hard. I do still spin a little bit, but not as much as if I were to just gun it at the bottom of the second gear. Hopefully if I can get around the 13, I will be on the top, so if he does spin the tires a little bit, then the guys on the bottom should be a little bit stacked up, so that should give me the advantage. And the cars been feeling really well all tonight, so I hope that I can bring home a victory.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race. We've seen your patience tested here tonight, but you've definitely made some great moves. And talk us through that last move you made, because it came all of a sudden. It didn't really seem like going into turn number 4 you had a shot, but you've definitely pulled it off. So just before you guys go back to green, because I know you got the one to go, tell us a little bit about that move that you made.
I knew I was faster than Tanner for most of it, and I was getting a lot better exits, and I knew that he was going to be a bit slower on the bottom, so I just tried my best to keep it on the top. I was hoping for a good run. I ended up getting one, and it paid off.
Absolutely. We're definitely putting on a show here today. Thanks for joining us, Dave, and we'll let you get back to the job at hand because we have 5 laps to go once we go back to green flag racing.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, that was driver of the number 20, Dave Wilson, currently in the second position, but Alan Capers is on much, much, much older tires in that number 13 machine. So, Cameron, what are your predictions here for this finish? I mean, it's going to be a wild one.
Wow, I don't know. I think one thing that we do know is that 13 car is not going to have the grip of these others on the restart, and I got to imagine he's probably going to be a little bit wobbly wiggly, and I don't know. We'll see. I think we've definitely loaded the fireworks machine, and we're going to see him here on this restart.
For all you Tanner Sharp fans, he did get a black flag. He is starting at the tail end of the longest line, but pace car is off. The race will be in the hands of the number 13 of Alan Capers. The inside line definitely. Oh, look at Capers. He's all out over the place. He's hitting number 25. Oh, there they go. Cars spinning. Their caution flag is out. Kevin Cochran hard in the outside wall. A couple of the other drivers further back. And Cameron, unfortunately, I think that might just do it here at Atlanta. I definitely thought, that was going to be difficult to keep those rear tires on it for Alan Capers, and it definitely happened.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's kind of the outcome you expect when you stay out on really older tires at all. But as old as those tires were, and with everyone behind you on fresh tires, they're going to be going. It's the end of the race, and you just can't go, and you're going to get ran over, and that's just kind of what happens. It's a shame for all the cars involved, but I think, like you said, that is going to be it for the end of this race.
Riding on board with the number 3 of Tanner Sharp through this melee in front of you. He's hard on the gas. Look at this. He just shoots it all the way up to the front, and Tanner Sharp, he's going to get a top 5 out of this one. I know that's probably not the finish he wanted, but currently scored in the 5th position behind Kyle Zimmer. Kyle Zimmer got all that damage on both sides of that car from the number 13. But look at that, Dave Wilson, man. He was able to get that power down, like he said in that interview, just kind of ease into it. And he was able to scoot away from that number 13 while that melee ensued behind him. And good run for newcomer Dominic Lee in that number 2 Toyota. He's going to be in the 2nd position as we only have 3 laps to go here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And unless these drivers got the 2 to go this time, that will definitely wrap this one up. There's Billy Weis in the number 32. He's 2 laps down. He's currently just in front of that number 20 Toyota. Not exactly sure how he got to being in front of the number 20, but he is 2 laps down. It's currently scored in the 12th position. So it looks like we're going to finish with 7 cars on the lead lap. But, man, we saw some great green flag running here tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I wasn't really expecting that much green flag running here tonight because it's just such a tough track, but we saw green flag pit stops, and everyone did a fantastic job of those green flag pit stops, and it was just a really good race here tonight, and I think Dave Wilson came away with a really hard-earned victory.
Yeah, it was a really fun race to watch, especially with all the strategies we had playing out right before the first caution came out. Those green flag stops really put a wrench in everything, and I really wanted to see how all those different strategies were going to play out. But either way, you know, the racing we saw on track was absolutely phenomenal, especially between Tanner and Dave Wilson. And, you know, Tanner, as much as I would hate to bring it up, you know, you said it early on in this race, that finish to the truck race definitely going to be in the back of his mind yet again, because he well and truly is going to think that he lost this one, and he lost it again to Dave Wilson.
Yeah, it's a shame for Tanner. He was trying to back up a good finish last week at Daytona with a good finish here tonight. And he's still going to get a top 5 out of it, but I know he was definitely looking to try and get that W here tonight. Well, you know, as we wrap up this one, Tanner Sharp goes up and bumps the number 2 machine. Not sure exactly what that was about. Tanner Sharp comes back to his spot in line. And that happened last time by, when I think Tanner Sharp just drove up alongside Dominic Lee, and not sure if he thought that Lee might have been the guilty party in that contact earlier or not, but I'm sure he'll watch the replay if that was definitely what he thought. The white flag is out here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Or excuse me, not quite the white flag. I'm jumping the gun by a lap. These long pace laps are oh, it is the last lap. Wow.
Yeah, we up here in the booth, we still not figuring out how numbers work, and that's completely fine.
Yeah, I can't count. You know what? It's been a long day.
We don't know how colors work either.
I don't know what a truck is. I don't know what a car is. Man, you can put this one down in the books of Peter Short doesn't know how to talk.
It's a long season, boys. We'll be here for 31 more of these races to not know what things are, but you know, it's always a good time up here in the booth watching these guys race, and that was a fun one to watch today.
And let me tell you, not every week's going to be a train wreck like this. This has just been an off week. It's been an off race for me personally, but it hasn't been an off race for that man right there, driver of the number 20, Dave Wilson. Definitely showing his way as he will come to the stripe this time under the yellow flag. Dave Wilson will take win number 1 on the B car season for himself, and the second win of the season for that team, because Roberge won at Daytona, and now he backs it up with a win at Hotlanta. We'll let him go around and celebrate.
And that'll be really good for his average finish. Finished second last week, first this week, so he's at an average finish of 1.5 right now. We see some cars hitting each other under caution. Not sure if there's any ill will there, or just because, you know, let's just go ahead and bump each other. But see Dave Wilson do some pretty sick burnouts. He usually puts on a show for these fans after the race. And we usually see the 98 of Roberge, his teammate, join in. So get these guys in an interview in just a minute here.
Yeah, and there, just outside of the picture, is the number 98 of Chris Roberge. Dave Wilson, man, those are pretty impeccable donuts, as we got synchronized donuts on the front stretch as the number 98 of Chris Roberge has joined in. Those two teammates going at it on the front stretch. Roberge, unfortunately, unable to back up his Daytona win here tonight, coming home in the 10th position in that number 98 machine.
I'll tell you
Wilson's
what, Peter,
gotta find his way.
Look how perfect the rubber circle is he's laying down. I've not seen that very often.
Yeah, Dave Wilson did a pretty fantastic burnout here as he's going to make his way to victory lane. Roberge also alongside it. Looked like both of them doing pretty fantastic burnouts here at Atlanta. But joining us up here in the booth, looks like it's going to be AJ Digby. Comes home in the 3rd position here tonight. AJ, you got a copy?
Yeah, I do.
All right, man. It looked like it was an up-down night for you, but you finished on a high in that number 14 machine. It looked at times like you had the faster car on the long run, but you didn't get a long run there at the end. Talk us through your race. Talk us through your pit strategy that you had going on, and tell us about the end of that one.
Yeah, early on I was just trying to stay out a long time. I knew if I pitted early and a caution came out that I could be stuck a lap or two behind. But, just tried to stay out as long as I could. Eventually got to the point where we realized we might be able to, if it stayed green, to split it up, pit in the middle, and be able to make another long run and finish the race on one stop. So I was hoping for that, but then the caution came out, and was still able to be battling in the top 5. Definitely felt like I had the long run car and not very quick on short runs. So I was just kind of stuck around 4th, 5th early on, and I deeply have to apologize to Kyle Zimmer. I just barely touched his left rear, and especially at a slick track like that, it's enough to spin around. So that was totally my fault. Definitely have to apologize for that. It's not how I want to race at all. So. But at the end of the day, we were able to get that last restart there and avoided the wreck and came home 3rd.
Yeah, talk us through that wreck from your perspective, because it kind of all happened right in front of you. How were you able to get through that, and were you kind of expecting that to possibly happen? Because it looks like you might have been laying back just a little bit.
Yeah, we were getting pretty big wheel spin even off of pitting and getting fresh tires. We were still getting wheel spin. I had wheel spin from the front and went up into the upper lane earlier in the race, and that's how it was, especially from the inside lane. It seemed to be especially worse from there. So knowing that Alan had some older tires, I was trying to lay off a little bit, knowing that something was probably going to happen, and knowing the nature of things usually end up sliding up the track. So I was trying to clear myself room to be able to dive down. But that outside line got a really good run and was able to get through him, and then that's just how I ended up in 3rd. But I sensed something was going to happen and just tried to lay off. My spotter did a great job of letting me know where people were around me, and we were able to make it through.
Yeah, great heads-up awareness by you, AJ, to get through that one and come home with a 3rd place finish here at Atlanta. The next race that we will have here in the B-Car Series is at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. What do you think about Vegas? It's a pretty fun track, in my opinion.
Very similar shape and running of track, just a lot more grip, being that it's a lot more freshly paved. I've always enjoyed Vegas, and not really going to worry about it until next Wednesday, and then we'll see what kind of car I got in practice. Going to spend most of my time focusing on the truck series at Most Sport on Monday, and hopefully have a good road course car there. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great run here tonight. Before we let you go, you got some shout-outs for us?
Of course, thanks to my spotter, Brian Newton, for being in here. Thanks to you guys for putting on a great broadcast, Jeff for a great league race, and shout out to everybody in the race tonight. The green flag runs were awesome, and to be able to have long runs like that was awesome. And then again, just a last-second apology to Kyle. I feel terrible about that. Not at all what I want to do or who I want to be, but I was glad that he was able to get going and end up in 4th. So, but he deserved a battle for that win just as much as all of us.
All right, well, there you go. Very apologetic AJ Digby, but he does come home in the 3rd position here tonight in Atlanta, and we'll see you at Las Vegas.
Thank you. See you guys.
All right, well, Cameron Rich has caught up with your 2nd place finisher, Dominic Lee. Well, possibly a little bit of...
That was my fault.
Is.
All right, Dominic, I'm finally back here. This is Cameron Rich. You got a copy?
I sure do.
All right, well, it's amazing what happens when I actually have my microphone unmuted. But anyway, probably the most consistent car tonight. It seems like you were in the top 3 all race. Led a solitary lap, come home in a P2. Take us through the race in your own eyes.
Well, I definitely didn't have anything for Sharp or Wilson there. And not even Digby for the first half of the race. Them 3 were just flat flying around the track. that was unbelievable how fast they could run with those tires gone like they were. But there at the end, I just kind of made some changes with my wheel settings and whatnot, and found something that I could drive a little bit better, and definitely got my car a little more stable there, and was able to find a little bit better line through 3 and 4, which I felt like that's really where I was struggling a lot. And I was hitting the apron in 1 and 2 right in the center, and it was making my car upset, and I kind of adjusted my entry to not hit that as much, and that definitely helped me as well.
Yeah, we saw you kind of running that extreme low line in turns 1 and 2, getting on the apron. What exactly did you change to kind of help you as the run went on?
I just changed a little bit of the force feedback in my wheel, as well as the bias. I went up a little bit on the force feedback, which in turn not made my car so loose off, because I was just absolutely sideways there about 20 laps in on that first run, which is why I dropped back 3 or 4 seconds off of those front 3 there.
Yeah, that's very true. That force feedback is kind of what you feel in the wheel, so of course that's got to be right for you to get speed. But we noticed you didn't show up at Daytona last week, so are you planning on running the rest of the season or just part-time?
No, I plan on running the rest of the season. I had heard about this series in the league, but Monday actually was my first time ever running with these guys, and it's a great group of guys, and I plan on being back, and so that's that.
All right, well, we do go to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway next week. A very similar track to this, a bit more grippy and less worn out. How are you feeling about your chances there?
A lot better than I did tonight. Atlanta is probably one of my worst tracks, if not my worst track here, and I was not at all excited about coming into tonight, so I'm looking forward to Las Vegas for sure.
All right, man. Well, to come home with a second place finish at a track you are not very confident at, it's a pretty good result, but we do thank you so much for talking with us, Dominic. We know you got some shout-outs for us, so let's go ahead and hear them.
All right, well, I have to give a shout-out to my grandfather. He's been in the hospital for about the last week and a half, and has some medical problems going on, so I have to give a big shout-out to him. And then I have to give a big shout-out to my sponsors and whatnot that helped me, in Vision Clothing Company and BR Photography, as well as Zydex and those other small companies that chip in as well. But that's just a big part of it here on this game.
All right, Dominic. Well, again, thank you for talking with us. We do hope your grandfather will be A-okay and ready to, get out of the hospital and be good here pretty soon. But congrats on finishing second, and we'll hope to see you next week.
I appreciate it, guys.
And I think Peter Short has caught up with our winner, Dave Wilson. Get him in here real quick.
All right, well, I'm down here in victory lane with driver of the number 20 Cadbury Dairy Milk Toyota, Dave Wilson. And Dave, we didn't see you lead all too many laps here tonight, but like I said a little bit earlier when we talked to you, you're able to make that move when it mattered to get to the front, and that puts you in the best spot for that last restart, getting ahead for that win. Talk us through your race, because it seemed like you had an intense battle with Tanner Sharp throughout, and how you're able to get up to the front to get the checkers.
Yeah, definitely tonight was definitely a lot of green flag runs tonight, and I think that kind of leaned towards what the outcome of the race tonight. Tanner was definitely really fast, and it was really hard to keep up with him at some points, but I just feel that I was able to save my tires a little bit better and save them for the longer run. I did make the undercut there at one point, and I was able to get my tires fixed, or tires changed to get a lot fresher tires on, and did about, I think, 4 or 5 laps and a caution came out. I was fortunately lucky enough to get around AJ to get back on the lead lap, so if a caution did come out, then I would not be a lap down, and I would get that advantage as well. During qualifying there, I didn't get the best laps in. Everybody was really fast in qualifying today. I just couldn't really find my groove, and luckily enough, my longer run racing was what kept me in this race tonight, and it was definitely one to put in the memory books.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic race. We've seen you win now at Atlanta twice, once in the Truck Series and now once here in the B-Car Series. How did the track change? You know, it looked like turns 1 and 2 got a little bit shaded as the race went on, especially coming out of turn number 2. How did the track evolve throughout the night?
Yeah, in practice it was definitely a lot more grippier than it was in the race. The race, it was in the 100-degree Fahrenheit for most of it, and it definitely made it a lot more slick. I know a lot of people were struggling in 3 and 4, but I found that to be my sweet point, except for that one little mishap I had, or a couple little mishaps actually. And turn 1 and 2, it definitely got a bit darker there at one point in the race, and it got really tight coming out. It definitely seemed like the more the sun got on it, the slicker it was, as it should be, and I was fortunate enough to be able to keep the car as straight as I did. Everybody did a great job. There was a lot of good saves out there tonight, and I can't wait to go back and see all the saves tonight.
Yeah, well, there was definitely action all over the track here tonight. Like you said, drivers kind of doing some epic saves and stuff like that. It really looked like a dirt track more than a 1.5 mile speedway. But in a couple of weeks, or next week, I believe, we go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Another 1.5 mile track, but shaped just a little bit differently, but race is pretty similar to Atlanta. What do you think about your chances there?
Hopefully I can get a good finish there next week. Don't really have the most experience on it. I've not really raced it too much in the B car especially, and I just gotta try to hope for the best and see if we can get some more green flag runs and see if I can excel in those as well.
Absolutely. Well, before we let you go, Dave, you got any shoutouts for us?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for coming into this race tonight. It was definitely one of the harder ones that we'll have this season with how hot the track got. I'd also like to thank you guys up here in the booth, as usual, for every week for streaming this on YouTube as well as doing the commentating for it. It definitely makes it enjoyable after the race to go back and watch it again. I'd also like to thank the owner of SimPossible, Jeff Schmidt, for making this possible every week, and all the drivers as well for participating in these races every week and making it a blast every time. Official races on iRacing definitely do not compare to the awesome race we have in SimPossible. Most of that being how much we get to know each other in this league, and it just makes us race harder because we know each other better, and we just want to race as hard and as clean as we can.
Absolutely. Well, the SimPossible Racing League puts on a show for us every Wednesday night in the B-Car Series and the MS Ford Truck Series on Monday nights. And definitely tonight was one of those. So, Dave, we thank you for joining us up here in the booth. And best of luck next week at Las Vegas, and we'll see you then.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Well, Cameron Rich is caught up with league organizer Jeff Schmidt.
Yeah, I'm here with Jeff Schmidt, the man, the owner of SimPossible Racing. You got a copy?
Yeah, Cameron, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. That was a pretty good race right there. I think Peter said it best himself. That was these guys put on a show.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That after we got that first green flag run in, I knew that, wow, we got something special here going on. With the way that the car handles here, after a few laps with hot temperatures, it's definitely a bit tricky to keep going straight, especially on the straightaways. The turns aren't as bad as the straightaways sometimes, so you just can't get that throttle back down without the rear end one to kick out on you. So the drivers did an amazing job tonight of keeping it as clean as they have, and once again, they've all impressed me.
Yeah, you're very right about that. This race had everything: green flag pit stop, some strategy, some door-to-door racing, and all that good stuff that we like to see up here in the booth and on the broadcast. But next week we go to a very similar racetrack in the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so I can't imagine we'll see too much different there. And just go ahead and talk about that. And we do have a very exciting event coming up on Monday as well in the Truck Series.
Yeah, Vegas next week in this series here for Wednesday night. That should be good. Vegas is always a fun track. Not many drivers you hear say that they don't like Vegas. Maybe some don't exactly like it as their favorite, but for the most part, it's a pretty likable track, and it has good racing usually. So super excited to watch these guys go there in this B car. I'm sure it's going to be a great race. Monday in the Truck Series, yeah, we're going to Mo Sport, so Canadian Tire Raceway road course in Canada. That's going to be exciting. We're going to try to get some practice in all together as a league here, hopefully this weekend, to maybe familiarize some of the guys that aren't so familiar with that track, but the guys are excited about it. I've heard excited than nervous even, so everyone's willing to give it a shot that doesn't particularly know that track well, and that's a great thing because I think it's going to be great. Unfortunately, with the road courses, the cautions don't work so well, so there's not really going to be any cautions. So it's really going to be about just keeping your truck on track and trying to make it through that MS Forward Series race.
Yeah, you're very right about that. I know Peter and myself are both looking forward to that race. Of course, we both love road course racing ourselves, and if this race we saw tonight was any indication, I think Vegas will be just as good, but if not even better. But anyway, Jeff, I do appreciate you talking to us each and every week. We love this league you put on. It's so great to watch. But before we let you go ahead and give us those shout-outs.
Yeah, I got to thank Daryl Kuchera with MS Forward. Their website's msforward.org. Definitely worth checking out their website and what they do. It's a gym out of Omaha, Nebraska, and they work with disabled individuals to help rehab and work out with them, and they have some awesome programs over there. So very fitting sponsor to have, and we're just very fortunate to have them on board. 3Wide TV and everything that you guys do. For any of the viewers out there, if you're not liked and subscribed, go do that now. Hit that like button for these SimPossible races and subscribe to that channel so you get notifications for the races coming up. Make sure to hit that notification bell to get those as well. Awesome racing broadcaster, and try to watch the other ones when I have time to see them too, with the other awesome races that they do broadcast other than the SimPossible ones. So they're definitely worth keeping an eye out on for everything that they do. The 3Wide, we thank you a ton. And Skylar Allen with GoFastRacing.us. Appreciate everything that he's done. If anyone's looking for a league, go to GoFastRacing.us, fill out a driver sign-up form over there. Race truck, Xfinity, and Cup Car, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And also, if you know or are a disabled individual that would like to join us on track in the SimPossible Racing League, go to SimPossibleRacing.com and fill out a driver sign-up form for that. If we legitimize your request to come on board here, then we'll have you out here racing. And always looking for more drivers out here. We're getting bigger and bigger. It seems like every week we gain a new driver or two now, so it's a great thing, and hope to see more out there.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for those words, and of course, SimPossible, a great partner for 3Wide TV. Of course, Mondays and Wednesdays every week, these guys are going to be out racing some form of vehicle. But regardless, we do have some results for you. David Wilson going from plowing the wall pretty hard to coming home the winner, so he should be a points leader. Dominic Lee with that great run coming home in second place. AJ Digby coming home third. Kyle Zimmer, some trouble there at the end, but coming home with a solid fourth place finish. Tanner Sharp, probably disappointed with that run because he did lead the most laps tonight, but gonna still come home with a top 5 finish. Alan Capers finishing 6th. Kevin Cochran, a pretty quiet night for him, coming home 7th. Nate Catilla actually was a couple laps down at the start of the race, comes home in 8th place. Good run for him. Brian Lowhead coming home 9th, and Chris Verberge, last week's winner, coming home in 10th.
And in the 11th position was the number 56 of Tom Johnson. Had a pretty quiet night, but came home with a fairly respectable 11th place finish. Billy Weis finishing in 12th after having that number 32 machine up near the top 10 all race. Fernando Matos comes home 13th. Tim Masters 14th. Thomas Wise finishing 15th. Johnny Berardi 16th. And Doug McCollum pulled his number 33 to the garage fairly early in this one. He finishes 99 laps down in the 17th position. But before we leave Atlanta, one thing I do want to make note of, Cameron, is Tanner Sharp. Tanner Sharp was able to get his high school equivalency. And that was a pretty cool achievement to hear about Tanner getting that high school equivalency. He's featured in the local news website, and it was pretty cool to see that this week. So congratulations, Tanner, my partner in crime here on Tuesday nights on 3 Wide TV in the ASRS series. But great news, buddy, and keep it up. And we'll definitely be seeing you back here on 3 Wide TV next week. And Cameron, I think Jeff said it best. No one really hates Las Vegas. A lot of drivers tend to like it, so I think it's going to put on a pretty good show. What about you?
I have to agree with that. I like Las Vegas. It's, you'd be surprised. It's a fairly new surfaced racetrack, only repaved in 2007, but quite low grip. So I like it myself, and I think these drivers are going to put on a great show, as they do each and every week. You could probably give all of these guys shopping carts in the Walmart parking lot, and they would put on a damn good race.
Absolutely, and I'm interested to see that Walmart parking lot race. I'll definitely see if we can get some of these drivers together to do that.
Live on 3 Wide TV.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Nonetheless, next week we will have the Truck Series live on Monday night from Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and then Wednesday night we'll be live here again on 3 Wide TV for the race at Las Vegas for the SimPossible Racing League. I am Peter Short, Cameron Rich, and Carlos Acosta manning those cameras. We thank you for joining us here on 3 Wide TV and iRacing Live, and we'll see you again next week.